Hello, what's up YouTube? Ron is with another tutorial, and in this tutorial I want to show you how you can easily colorize or turn a black and white photo into color in just Photoshop. So I'm just going to be using this black and white image, and we just want to see how far we can transform it and make it or turn it into a colored photo in Photoshop. So what you have to ensure or take into consideration is you have to look at the photo that you have, and you have a reference photo. And by reference photo, I mean you have to look for the image that has colors that are close to a photo that you want to turn into black and white. And in that case, we just want to get our image right now, and we see how far we can transform it and make it or copy those colors from it. So just want to create a color palette from our reference image. So I'm just going to come right down here. I'm going to get my reference image. So this is my reference image. I'm just going to simply drag and drop it into Photoshop, just right there. I'm just going to drag and drop it right into Photoshop, and you can see it is covering my overall screen. So I'm just going to hold down the alternate and just make it smaller and drag it towards this side and simply hit enter. So this is the reference image. So just want to copy colors from this image and we create a color palette. So in this case, we just want to take or copy skin tones that are in the face of a model, and we look for the colors in the highlights, midtones, and the shadows from this reference image. So what we want to do, we're just going to come and get our lasso tool, and we're just going to use a feather of around 0 pixels, and I'm just going to make a selection on the face area of this reference image. So I'm just going to draw like that, and you can see right now we have made a selection of the face area. I'm just going to hit Ctrl or Command J on the keyboard to duplicate that, so I can come and delete the reference image. So you can see this is the reference image that we have at disposal. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to simply come right here to my eyedropper tool, and what you have to set, make sure you set this quite well or well, because you are going to be having issues in the next steps in this tutorial. So just come and make sure the sample size is 5 by 5 average, and sample is in all layers. So make sure you have sample as all layers. So I'm just going to come to the brushes, and using either a hard brush or soft round brush, we're just going to use one at around 54%, and we're just going to hit enter. So just going to copy sample colors from different areas, or how light or how dark the areas in the reference image are. So I'm just going to zoom in by using Ctrl Command plus on the keyboard, and by holding down the alternate key on the keyboard. And before we sample these colors, we are just going to come and create a new blank layer. So this is where the colors are going to be pasted. So just come and hold down alternate on the keyboard and simply sample from the darkest area of this photo, which is the darkest area in the skin tone is around this area. So I'm just going to choose this area right here, alternate, and simply left click right here, and you can see it has made a sample. So I'm just going to increase on the brush size and simply paint once. So this is going to make sure the opacity and the flow at 100%. So this is going to represent the darkest area of this image. So I'm just going to paint even more. So next thing that we want to do, we're just going to come and look for the brightest area within the skin tone. So I'm holding down the alternate key on the keyboard. I'm just going to left click on the brightest area and simply paint just like that. So this is the brightest area. So I'm just going to look for another area that is going to be our midtones, and look for a slightly darker area that is close to the shadows. So by holding down the alternate key on the keyboard and left clicking, so I'm just going to look for that area. So this looks like a better area right here, and I'm just going to simply paint. So I'm just going to look for an area that is between the highlights and this color. So I'm just going to look for that area, just going to left click and simply paint. So you can see this is a color palette that has or is representing the colors that are in the reference image. So I'm just going to come to our reference image. I'm just going to delete it, hit delete after selecting it. And if at all you just want to be a little bit uniform, you can come and get your rectangular marquee tool right here, and just draw like that from up to down. Left click and drag down just like that, and we're just going to hit Ctrl or Command J on the keyboard, and we could come and simply delete this, and you can see we have simply created a color palette from which we are going to create a nice and beautiful gradient that is going to be applied to this very photo. So what we're going to do, we're just going to come to the adjustments and create our gradient map. So with that clicked on, we're just going to single click right here, left click, and we just want to map these colors. So make sure the alternate key on the keyboard is not on. So you're just going to look at the gradient. So in the gradient, you can see these colors right here. This represents the shadows, and this represents the brightest areas or the highlights. So I'm just going to simply hit cancel, because before you do all this, make sure gradient, this option, the gradient icon, has been checked or selected, because when you're sampling these colors and mapping them into the photo, it is not going to be working because you may have selected the white layer mask. So just make sure this icon or the gradient map icon is selected instead of the white mask, and simply left click, single click, and simply when you single click on the shadows, you can see it brings back the color, and single click right on the color, and single click right on our reference area. So I'm just going to leave this in the highlight mode. So make sure you have this highlight mode selected. So you can see it has mapped our darkest areas. So I'm just going to do the same for the brightest areas. Single click on the brightest point, and left click on the color option, and left click on our brightest area in the palette, and simply hit OK. So you're just going to simply left click right here and make a point, and in that point just come to color and single click right here. You can see this, single click, and you're going to sample that color and simple and hit OK. So I'm going to make another point right here, and with that point made, I'm just going to come back to color and come and simply click right here to sample that color. I'm just going to come and hit OK. So you can see it has made our gradient map, or it has made a gradient and mapped it within the image. So you can come back and simply click right here and drag this, and you can make another bright point by simply making a point and coming to color and simply making a brighter point and coming and hit OK. So with that done, we are just going to come right here and you're going to close this. And while looking at our photo, you can come and play around with these points and look for what works best with the image that you have at disposal. So I'm just going to click and look for the area that has a better contrast value as regarding to this image. So play around with these points and you see what works best for your photo. So just look for that, and I'm just going to move this slightly up. So with this done, just come and hit OK. So this image has already been applied with the gradient map. So what we want to do in this case, we're just going to come to the blend mode and change it from normal and change it down to color. So right now the image doesn't look good at all. So what we want to do is just want to come back to the gradient map, and you're going to simply double click right there and single click, and you can come and play further with these points and you see what works best for you. So I'm just going to take this down a little bit more and darken this, and I could come and simply take this down until when you feel like it is creating something that looks closer or is more related to skin tone or skin color. So I'm just going to take this down a little bit more and play around with these points just like that, and just click right there and look for one that is really working good and looks great for your photo. So I'm just going to do this and play around with these sliders up to when I feel like I have the best contrast within the photo. So just come and play around with these sliders just like that up to a point when I feel like it is really giving me the best out of the contrast values. So I'm just going to do this even more. So take this back down and see what it gives me, and I'm just going to play around with this. So you have to play around with this, or you can even make another point and even darken this. So I'm just going to make another point and simply darken it even more, just like that, and this, hit OK. So you can see by playing around with these different points, you can see that we are getting a color that is close to skin color or skin tones. So I'm just going to come and hit OK, and with the image selected, with this white layer mask selected, I'm just going to come and select the white layer mask and simply hit Ctrl or Command I on the keyboard to invert that effect. So I'm just going to come and get a soft round brush. So right click under the brushes and get a soft round brush. So just come and look for the hardness at 0, and with the soft round brush, make sure the caps lock key is not turned on. So with the anopus and the flow at 100%, and make sure white is on the foreground, and we're just going to be painting the effect back using the white brush on a black mask. So I'm just going to zoom in by using Ctrl or Command plus on the keyboard and start painting in my effect. So don't mind if at all it is looking a little bit weird or awkward, because we're going to be refining that later on in the next step. So I'm just going to paint in this, and you have to take your time if at all you want the most perfect results from your image. So I'm just going to paint in the color within the skin of these models. So just come and paint in this, and I'm just going to continue painting around these colors in the skin tone. So you're just working with skin tone right now in this very step, and the next thing is going to be refining the skin details and also the skin tones, because this looks a little bit off and it looks awkward for everyone out there. So you're just going to be refining that later on in the next step. So just come and paint through the areas that have skin, and don't mind, we are going to be refining our painting or the brush selection or painting in this photo later on in this tutorial. So let's just come and do a rough job. But if at all you have all the time in the world, you can do a more perfect or a better painting job. So I'm just going to paint in through just like that, and come to this area and also paint in that color. You can see I'm even going off by painting on other areas that are not skin. So I'm just going to zoom in and also paint in the color in the hands or the arms. So I'm just going to paint in just like that, and come right here and also paint in the color. Don't mind if at all I paint on the nails or on the watch, because I can always come back and eliminate that from the image. So I'm just going to zoom in or increase on the size of a brush by using the open and close brackets on the keyboard to either increase on the size or decrease on the size of your brush within Photoshop as you're doing this very step. So I am done painting in most of the areas that have skin tone. I'm just going to zoom out, and you can see that we have worked on the skin tone, but it is not really blending quite well within this photo. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come to the layer style dialog box and play around with the blend if tool. So I'm just going to come and eliminate the colors from either the shadow areas or the highlights of the image. So I'm just going to simply double click right here, and it's going to open up the layer style dialog box. And by moving this, you can see it eliminates color from specific areas. So make sure you eliminate, for example, in the shadow, so that it can blend in quite well within the skin of the model. So you can see it has done a rough job, and in order to refine it, hold down the alternate key or Alt on the keyboard, and you can split this to refine or fine tune that blend area. And you can see that this looks better. And let's see our preview. That's the before after, and it is now blending in within the shadow areas. And you can do the same for our highlights or the brightest area. So first of all, move this towards the right hand side up to a point when you feel like you're fine and okay with that, and you can split them by holding down alternate, and you split these two triangles and refine that even better. So you can see the before and after. It has right now blended well within the image. So I'm just going to come and hit OK. So the next thing that we want to do, you can see skin tone looks a little bit off, and what we want to do, we just want to refine the skin color of the model. So what we want, we're just going to come back to the gradients and simply single click and come and play around with these colors. For example, I feel like the mid-tone color is a little bit off, so I'm just going to play around with the brightness levels, the hue and the saturation levels of the mid-tone. So I'm just going to click on this top, and when you click on the color option, you can see it brings back this, and you can see we have hue, saturation and brightness. So you can come to the saturation of those mid-tones and you can move this up to see what works best for you. So I'm just going to take this up slightly, and that looks good. Let me see the brightness levels, and I'm just going to, you can see when I take the brightness down, it really desaturates the image. So I'm just going to take it up slightly, and I'm going to come and play around with another color that is our, just going to play around with this color in this area. Click on it and come and play around with the brightness and saturation level. So I'm just going to take down the saturation a little bit, just like that, and that looks quite better. Let me see the hue values, and let me play around with the brightness and I see what is better. So just going to take the brightness a little bit down. So let me play around with the darkest color in the image. So these dark colors are going to do the magic. So with the brightness level, I'm just going to take the brightness a little bit higher, and that looks quite better. And I'm going to play around with the saturation values. So let me just take this down a little bit, and this looks better now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come and play around with another dark color within this image. So click there and come here, and also play around with the brightness levels of that specific color. So I'm just going to brighten that up a little bit. So this looks quite better. I'm just going to come and simply hit OK. So I'm just going to hit OK on the gradients, and you can see right now we are a step higher and the image looks quite better. So what we want to do, you can see within our skin we don't usually have a plain color. Usually areas that have veins are a little bit reddish or a little bit dark in color. So just want to paint in those colors to look a little bit more realistic. So I'm just going to come to the hue and saturation adjustment, and I'm going to first of all target the red. So come to the red channel, and I'm going to widen or make it broader within this range, and make sure all the reds are selected, and come to the hues, and I'm just going to take it and make it a little bit red in color, and I'm going to take the saturation up, but that looks off so much, and I'm going to take the lightness down just like that, and this looks quite better by taking the lightness down. Take saturation up and also take the lightness down a little bit more, and I'm going to desaturate this, and this looks better, but it looks off and it is affecting the overall skin of a model. So just want it to affect specific areas of the image. So with this white layer mask selected, I'm just going to hit Ctrl or Command I on the keyboard to hide or invert that effect, and using a white soft round brush with a flow this time around of around 10%, I'm just going to paint in the areas that have veins in the image to make it look a little bit more and more realistic. So using a small brush, you can either increase or decrease on the size of your brush by using the open and close brackets on the keyboard. So I'm just going to paint in those veins or where areas that have wrinkles in the image to make it look a little bit more nice and realistic. So I'm just going to paint in those areas and come and paint in using our brush, and it's going to be revealing the more natural nature of the image. So I'm just going to paint in those dark areas or areas that have those slight wrinkles. So I think I've overdone that area. I'm just going to paint once, just like that. To you're now basically trying to make the skin look a little bit more real and realistic, because with skin we have different tonal variations, and skin is not just flat. So you're just trying to add those skin or tonal imperfections in this photo. And when you feel like you have really overdone it, you can come and turn down the opacity of your group and just come and play around with this image and just play around and see, add those nice and beautiful wrinkles within the photo, just like that. And you can come to the ear and also darken or make or apply that reddish feel or effect within the photo. So just come and paint in those within the photo, and you can see we can come to the hands and also apply it right in these areas and make them look natural and even more realistic, so that you don't have just a plain color applied within the photo. So I'm just going to come and paint in right here on these knuckles, just right there, and make the image look a little bit more better and a little bit realistic. So you can see what we had before and after. Right now the skin is looking a little bit realistic, but I feel like this is a little bit off, so I'm just going to reduce or eliminate that from there. So this is where we started, and this is the before after. You can see image now looks a little bit more realistic. So I could come and zoom in and paint a little bit of the color right there, and also paint a little bit of color right there. So you can see right now we're just trying to make the skin look a little bit real and realistic. So next thing that we want to do, we just want to come and let's try and apply a color on the outfit or the top of the model. So we're just going to come to the hue and saturation, and with this I'm just going to click on colorize, and I'm just going to come and play around with this. Under master, just come and choose any color. So I'm just going to look for any color that is really great and beautiful for this image. So I'm just going to look for a very nice and beautiful color. So just going to look for that color, and let's go with this kind of color. And I'm just going to hit Ctrl or Command I on the keyboard. So with a brush at opacity at 100% and flow at 100%, I'm just going to paint in that color with this image to colorize or add color to the top of the model. So you're basically trying to colorize this image. So I'm just going to apply that color. You can zoom in if at all you want more perfect results. So just come and zoom in and paint in that color. And you can see this looks great and looks so amazing. So just come and paint in that color, and you can see the progress right now. So I'm just going to paint in this color, and you can see how nice and progressive this tutorial is turning out to be. And if at all you feel like it is really impactful to you, don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you're finding this really helpful. So let's just come and paint in this color just like that. So don't mind if at all I'm going off with this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this hue and saturation layer for the top. I'm just going to take it below our skin tone or gradient map so that this can be a little bit up, and I'm just going to paint right now in a more better way. So just come and paint just like that, and you can see right now we are not having any boundary issues. For example, painting around, and this looks quite better. And I'm just going to take it back up to see how far we are going. So you can see I've painted areas that I don't want to really paint in. So I'm just going to come using our brush, and I'm just going to switch it back to black and just eliminate the color from this area. So in this way, this can be done in so many ways. And remember, you have to save time. and spare time while doing all this. So I'm just going to paint in that color back. So I'm just going to do this, and you can see it is looking quite real and a little bit realistic. So I'm just going to come back to our this and also paint in this other area. So just trying to colorize this image just like that. I'm just going to come and paint in just like that. So you can take your time, if at all you have all the time in the world, and make this a better, or you can paint better in those areas. So I'm just going to zoom in quite well or more, and you can come and paint in just like that to make it look better. So take your time as you're doing all this, and reduce on the size if at all you have a smaller area to paint through, and just come and paint in those areas. So right now you can see image looks nice and beautiful, but we haven't worked on other areas. So with our image already worked on the top area, we just want to going to come and eliminate this color from the neck area. Just come Command Z using a black brush. I'm just going to eliminate it from this neck area. So remember, we haven't colorized other areas, for example the lips of the model and the gums. So what we want to do for the lips, remember our lips usually have another color that is close to our skin tone. So I'm just going to come to a skin tone layer and first of all refine the painting on the lips of the model. So I'm just going to reduce on the size and come and refine using a white brush, and come and refine. Just going to come right here, just going to refine or make this better. So I'm just going to use a white brush and paint in these other areas. Remember, we usually have a color that spills even more towards the lips. So with the edges of the lips painted, I'm just going to come and turn down the flow and turn the flow down all the way to around 15%, and I'm going to come and using that very low flow, just going to paint in these areas just like that to make it look better and even realistic. So I'm just going to come right here, then come here, and I'm also going to do the same. So if at all you feel like you want to add a specific color, for example a reddish color within the lip area, I'm just going to show you what to do next. So I'm just going to come and paint in these areas. So I'm basically doing a rough job, but I hope you are getting the point and how to do this better. So zoom out and look at how all the work we have done on the lips so far of the model. So I'm just going to come back to our hue and saturation. I'm just going to name this layer lips later on. So let me just try and come back to colorize and look for a color that is close to a red or the gums. So I'm just going to look for that color. Just going to take this down and simply turn up the saturation. So this looks quite close. Just going to turn this. Let me see if at all I take it up. That is too much. So just want to get a tight or a little bit of pinkish tone that can work with the gums and also part of the lips. So just come and close that. Hit Ctrl Command I on the keyboard, and you're going to name this to lips. And using a white brush, I'm just going to paint on this black mask on the gums and maybe some parts of the inner mouth. So I'm just going to take the flow a little bit around 7 and paint on the lips just like that. You can see it is adding a subtle kind of lipstick on the lips of the model. So I'm just going to come and also paint right here in this area. So just come and paint in that kind of reddish color, and we are just going to work on the gums of the model. So I'm just going to come and first of all work inside the tongue or inside the mouth on the tongue area. and just apply this red color just like that. And we're just going to also work on the gums of the model. So just come and apply our nice and beautiful red color onto the gums of the model. So you're basically trying to colorize the gums too. And you can see that this is turning out to look better and even realistic. So let's just come and paint into the gums just like that. And you can see that this is now turning out to look a little bit better and even realistic. So let me just zoom out slightly so that you can look at the image. So you can see how nicely done the lips have turned out to be. So you can now come back and refine the areas that we misworked on in this photo. So I'm just going to come right here. I'm going to come to, first of all, the skin tone. So you just want to fix the skin tone or skin color. So I'm just going to come to this and using a flow of 7%, and I'm just going to paint around rather in the hair area. Remember, skin also spills a little bit towards the hair. Let me use a flow of 5%. So let me just paint a little within the hair just like that to make it look real and even more realistic. So I'm just going to paint in the hair just like that and come and paint a little bit right there. And I'm going to come to the eye area. So you're just basically trying to refine or fine-tune this image. I'm just going to come here and I'm going to paint a little bit in the eyebrows just like that so that it can look a little bit real. So let's just do this. So we are basically trying to fine-tune the areas that we didn't fill in with skin. So I'm just going to come and take the flow back to 100% and basically try to paint in the skin area. So I'm just going to paint in just like that. And you can see this looks better and even real. So let me just come and paint in through just like that. Command minus. So what I want to do, I want to a little fine tune the outfit, or let me just fine tune the hands because this is a more complex area or a complex area. So let me just come and paint in through. So with this selected, opacity and the flat 100%, I'm just going to come and fine tune. So we are having an issue right here. So this is the layer for the outfit. So I'm just going to take this a little bit lower and I'm just going to apply it down. So just drag it and apply it or put it beneath our gradient map layer. So this is okay. So I'm just going to, using a black brush, I'm going to paint in the areas that I want to make better in this photo. And using a black brush, eliminate the color from, let me just put this up. Just going to eliminate the color from the top of the model just like that. And you can see that we are doing a decent job. So I'm basically trying to fine-tune the areas I hadn't worked on in this image. So you can see where we are, and let's see where we started and where we have turned out to be right now. So alternate, and you can see the before, after, before, after, before, after, and this image looks very nice and looks real. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come and I'm going to delete this because we no longer need it. You can see what we have right now. So if at all you want, you can come and even work more on the eyes and even fine-tune the earring. So let's just work on the earring. We'll see what it is going to do. So just come to our hue and saturation, and I'm going to use colorize and I'm just going to look for a color for our earring. So I prefer a gold color. So this looks great. Hit Ctrl Command I on the keyboard. Using a white brush, I'm going to paint in this color right on the earring to make it even golden. You can see this looks great and looks beautiful. So if at all you feel like a color spilled in other areas, what I'm going to do, I'm going to first of all paint in this color for our skin tone in the edges. For example, the edges I hadn't worked on using a brush, so I'm just going to paint in those areas just like that, and I'm going to eliminate that effect from the other areas I want to eliminate. So I'm just going to set it black and simply eliminate that from the edges and make it look better and even realistic. So I'm just going to eliminate it from the lashes. Command minus to zoom out. You can see right now we have colorized and made this photo look even better and very real, and it is very beautiful. So let's see the overall before and after. This is the before, after. So this is how to colorize your images in Photoshop. And if at all you have found this helpful, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe this channel. If at all you are watching and not subscribe this channel, Ronix from Ronix Photography. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in yet more amazing tutorials, and don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.